So, today we're diving deep into spiritual awakening and higher dimensional communication with our special guest, Daniel Scranton. Daniel is a renowned channeler, spiritual teacher, and author who has connected with beings such as Ninth Dimensional Arcturian Council, Archangel Michael, and many others. His mission is to empower individuals to embrace their spiritual gifts and align with their highest potential. Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks for having me, Rick. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I understand that you do have a little bit of history here in Laguna Beach.
Yeah, I've channeled down there a few times. Well, I say down there because I was living up in Long Beach.
Yeah.
I lived in Long Beach for over 8 years, and I've made my way down to Laguna and San Diego County many times to channel.
Right. And specifically here in Laguna Beach, I think you told me you were, whereabouts were you doing that? At the
Float Lounge.
Float Lounge, yes.
You at like people's private homes.
Yeah, the Float Lounge, favorite spot. That was a great spot. I wish it were still around, but alas, it is not. So Daniel, let's start with your journey. How did you discover your ability to channel, and what inspired you to pursue it as a path?
Well, I was always a channeling enthusiast from the moment that I found it in late 2002. I found Conversations with God. I started getting into the Seth books after that, and then I found Abraham. And with Abraham, I was able to follow Esther and Jerry around the whole planet. I actually came to Australia for the first time on a cruise ship with Jerry and Esther, and now I live here. So, I went on 8 of their cruises. I would fly all over the country to go to their workshops. I loved it. I listened to the recordings in the car. I read channel material. I had no idea I would ever do it myself, and I had no aspiration to do it. I just was happy to be someone who asked really thoughtful, thought-provoking questions in the hot seat with Abraham, and to absorb as much of it as I could. But little did I know that all that time, in addition to attending all those workshops, which gives you an attunement every time you're in the space of channeled energy, you're getting programmed by it. You're sort of absorbing it and channeling yourself while you're sitting there. Then at the same time, I had been meditating every single day for 10 years because I had kind of a chronic fatigue of, never feeling like I got a good night's sleep or a good enough night's sleep to make it through the day. So I'd always have to meditate. And I think those two things combined led me to early 2010, I'd be doing Reiki on someone, and all of a sudden my arms would start moving around by themselves. My head started to make the Stevie Wonder kind of infinity symbol. And my mouth started moving at one point, and I said, oh my God, am I going to channel? So that's January 2010. Then I kept doing Reiki on people, thinking this is obviously something I should be doing. And then in March, I had this huge experience with extraterrestrials that I think was a way of readying me for what was to come later on in the year, because I didn't believe that extraterrestrials played any sort of role in our lives. Like, I didn't think they had their place and their dimension, and we had ours, and I didn't think the two really intersected that much, other than like rare UFO sightings where they would sort of blip into our reality and then blip out. But
right.
I got really interested in ETs after having my own experience with them, where they started downloading energy into my body through the crown of my head in the middle of the night. And I was awake for it. But prior to it, I had a dream where I turned to a guy that I knew through Abraham, and I said to him, I understand now about the other beings. And he was a big ET enthusiast, so I knew by other beings I meant ETs. And so as it was all happening, I started, first I was just blown away. It was the most incredible experience. It's indescribable, the amount of ecstasy I was feeling in my body. It just nothing else measures up to it. And So at first, all I was doing is saying, "Oh my God," and then I was begging for more, and then I was just saying, "One more time, one more, please, more, please." And then when I thought about the dream, I thought, "What does this have to do with that dream? What does this have to do with the aliens?" I got a huge surge of it through my body, and then I just started repeating the words "aliens, aliens, aliens" because I just wanted to feel like, it was like being hooked up to a drug. When you're sitting in the hospital bed and you can press the button and give yourself more.
Right. More and more.
And then I started asking them questions, and if the answer was yes, they would give me another surge of energy. So I had this conversation of sorts with them, and then I thought, maybe I'll see you in the room if I open my eyes. So I open my eyes, I look around, I don't see them, but I start feeling the energy flooding in again like it was at the very beginning. And I don't know that if that had something to do with my expectation and my excitement, and it opened me up more. But the whole time, like, I thought at first I was just getting a healing because I had this chronic pain in my body, and I was always asking for, help consciously and subconsciously, and then I get this huge download. But I think it was really about readying my body to channel the higher frequency beings that I would bring in later. So then cut to 7 months later, I've done some attempts to channel, and I've tried to get that feeling back in my body, and I can give myself full body goosebumps and things like that, but I'm not getting close to what I was experiencing that night. So I'm at an Abraham workshop, and I'm dry heaving because I'm feeling the energy so much in the room, and I'm tuning into it. And I said, okay, I gotta, my friends actually convinced me, you gotta ask Abraham about this. So the next day I'm sitting there, and my hand raised itself, because I wasn't raising my hand that day. I was just kind of, absorbing everything. And my hand goes up by itself, and by the time it gets to the top, the person who is in the hot seat gets up and gets out, and my hand's all the way up, and she calls on me, which, I mean, it was just such the whole thing was just so magical, because they told me, you're going to do this thing that Esther's doing right now. And I did not expect to be encouraged. I expected to be admonished for trying too hard, for trying to make something happen that wasn't supposed to happen. So when they told me that, when I got that green light, I had at the time been Skyping with this woman that I met on an Abraham cruise in London. She lived in London, I lived in LA. We had a long distance relationship. So we were already Skyping 4 times a week for 4 to 6 hours at a time. So what we did was we just added to those conversations time where I would sit to channel. And basically when I first started channeling, my mouth, my head, and my neck would just move around and make all these weird faces and distortions. And I felt the tension in my neck and in my face, but nothing was coming out of me. So I was really frustrated because I knew, like, obviously this is going to happen. I don't know what I'm doing to block it, or, started getting down on myself a little and impatient. But then eventually it did happen, and I spoke for the creators the first time in about November, somewhere in November. Could be exactly 14 years ago today. I'm not sure. I don't like date.
Wow, that would be cool.
That's how it all started.
That's cool. That's an amazing story. Your messages from the Arcturian Council often focus on ascension, manifestation, healing. Could you share an example of a powerful message that you feel is deeply resonated with your audience?
My audience, they tell me that it resonates with them, but they don't. And I've heard people say to me things like, "Oh, your channeling has saved my life," and things like that, but they don't get so specific. But I would say that what the Arcturians' message has been, in a nutshell, is that the way for us to grow and evolve consciously is to accept as being the first step, and then forgive, and then others and ourselves too. Sometimes we have to forgive ourselves, and then have compassion, and then finally get to the place of unconditional love. Because really what we're all ascending towards is source. We're ascending to a new dimension of reality, but we're also ascending towards source, and source is that unconditional love. it is that single point of light that we're all moving towards to come together. And so that's been their message of like how to get there, is to put those 4 steps into practice.
Yeah, and that's what I get quite a bit out of the messages as I hear you channel those, especially with the Arcturian Council for sure. So one of the things that you emphasize is personal empowerment and releasing resistance to manifest dreams. How can people practically apply this in their daily lives, Daniel?
Well, okay. Well, the first thing they have to do is they have to accept the truth, because this is one of those truths with a capital T. It's not circumstantial. It doesn't depend on what dimension you're in. We are creating all of this, 100% of it, 100% of the time. If people don't accept that the plant that's sitting in the room with them is a manifestation of theirs, and when I say that, I mean it literally. I don't mean like they manifested the $15 to go out and buy the plant. I mean, they're looking at a plant that they're actually creating in real time that's sitting on the table in front of them. Then if you can't get there, it's going to be really hard to accept that you have a power that goes beyond what you're able to use your words and your actions, you know, your ability to go out and get something or earn money to buy something, because there is this power in the universe of attraction. That's what Abraham talks about all the time, where we're not really attracting things to us like a magnet. We're really going to the reality where that is what we'll be creating in that reality for ourselves to experience. So it's a little convoluted and difficult for the mind to understand, but there isn't just one earth, one reality, one you, one me. It's all this multifaceted, multidimensional experience of traveling to, as a spirit, to these different bodies to inhabit them, where there's different things going on. And really, when a person realizes that, they know that anything is possible. And if anything is possible, then it's just a matter of being in vibrational harmony with it. And sometimes, for a lot of us, that just means letting go of all the stuff that tells us that we're not. So all the past failures in our lives. You know, I failed at a lot of things in life before I succeeded at this. You know what I mean?
Completely resonate. Completely resonate. Yeah.
Great screenwriter. I wanted to do all these things, and you know, I wound up here. That's amazing.
You know, one of the things that I just really resonated with, and it goes back to Abraham, and I've been a student of Abraham forever as well, as you have, not as not as deep as you have gone with all of those cruises and all of those workshops that you've personally attended. But one of the things that, to me, about the message from Abraham that resonates so deeply with me, and you just mentioned talking about getting your vibrational frequency to match up with, say, what that desire is. So I think we know energetically, when we desire something, it's there vibrationally, but maybe we're down here, and we have to raise our vibration. And you touched on it a little bit about getting rid of a lot of the blockage in our lives, the baggage, the sanskaras, whatever it is that's holding us back to get it up to this point. Because, you know, when I hear Abraham talking about it, they make it seem really simple. Oh, all you have to do, Rick, is just raise your vibration up to where the vibration of this desire exists in the vortex, and you get it. It's like, okay, but I got to come all the way up here to do it. How do you advise people? What's some of the steps that people can take to get that vibration level up to that point where they're matching that vibration of manifestation, of desire?
Well, like I said, with the teachings of the Arcturians, that first step of acceptance, that's not just about accepting other people so that you can get along with them and get to the place where you're being that unconditionally loving being. It's also accepting all the circumstances of your life, because always there are circumstances of our lives that we would like to be different. We would like that to change, and that aspect to change, and that person to change. And until we accept, we cannot lower the resistance that's within us. And lowering the resistance within us is the easiest way to raise your vibration. You don't have to be jumping up and down with joy. You just have to stop holding yourself down energetically and vibrationally by focusing on your life in a way that doesn't feel good, where you're going, but I should have done this, or you know, I missed out on that, you know, I failed at this, you know, I like I said, I really had this desire to write screenplays and have the, you know, biggest Hollywood actors be in those movies that I had written and stuff, and I could still be lamenting the fact that that didn't happen, or I could look back at it and go, it was kind of like my earliest experience with channeling, as I was writing, and it was so easy and everything flowed to me. These images came in my head, and you know, there were movies playing in my head that I could put down on paper. And so you know, you have to be able to look at your life and your circumstances and everyone in it in such a way where you go, okay, this is what it is, and not only is it not that bad, but I can make the best of it. I can make it even better with my focusing upon it in such a way. And so, yeah, you know, you could just try to ignore all of the things in your life that aren't going the way you want to and say, what can I do today that's fun? And I'll go out and I'll do those things. But at some point, it's going to pop into your head, and you're going to have to do that work. And that really is the work that we're all doing, is changing the way we perceive our reality so that our reality can change.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you work with a wide range of beings, right? From archangels to extraterrestrials. What's it like to connect with such diverse energies and do their messages vary significantly?
It feels pretty similar to me in that, well, some of them are very feminine, and I feel that femininity, and some are more masculine feeling, and like Archangel Michael and sounding. You know, I sound like Batman when I'm channeling. So it's, you know, it's different coming through me. The process is the same every time. All I've ever had to do to channel is like close my eyes, focus on opening up the channel, and it happens. But it comes through oftentimes, especially at first when I'm first making a connection with a group or a being, comes through as light language, tones, and then eventually I start to go, okay, let's do some of this in English now. Like I'll make that conscious choice to speak, and then usually like a few words start coming out. And so that whole process feels the same to me every time, because it's energy. We're channeling energy. We're not being occupied by the beings themselves in a possession type of thing. It's more like we're all being sent energy all the time, and we are either opening up to it or tuning ourselves to the frequency of it so that we can receive it, or we're not, and we're staying on that lower vibe plane where all we're getting are the thought forms of our parents and the beliefs of our society and all these things that are floating around for us to channel as well, but channeling from that place of not really ever taking the time to say, well, what else is out there? What else could I tune into? You know, and as New Agers, a lot of New Agers think like, well, anything that goes against the grain is what I should believe or what I should tune into. And so they'll start thinking like in terms of, well, if the news says one thing and this person on the internet is saying that thing instead, and they're contradicting what the news is saying, then I should be paying attention to that person because that, that's what it means to be awake. But I would say you need to go higher than that. You need to go higher than the conspiracy theory channel.
Yes.
On YouTube. You need to go to your higher vibrational state where you're getting those very calm, soothing, reassuring messages that are very positive in nature and that are not at all about pointing fingers at who the bad guys are on the planet. And so when people do that and they receive their own messages, it's a game changer. It really lets people know you're never alone. You always have help. There are all these energies out there, all these transmissions that you can easily download as soon as you put your mind to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point as well, there's a lot of listeners I know that are curious about connecting with their own guides. What advice would you offer to someone wanting to open up to these higher dimensional connections?
Well, they're always around, so you don't have to reach far. They have their attention is on you. They know your every thought already. They know your every desire already. So it's not about you getting louder with your speaking out to them, although they do like it when you speak to them, and it is good for us to speak to them because it's a show of faith for ourselves, where we're saying, okay, I believe I have help, and I believe in it so much that I'm willing to speak out loud to these beings. And then you can feel for them as these orbs of energy over your shoulders and over the crown of your head. And when I channel about guides for people, the beings I channel always say, there's an angelic one above the crown, and you can feel for that being there. There's a feminine one over on your left shoulder, and there's a masculine one over on your right shoulder. And those are your three main guides, and you have more guides than that even. But if you focus on those areas and on their support, their feelings of unconditional love for you, their support, their wisdom, and maybe the archetype that you intuitively know they represent, like it might be a fairy guide over your left shoulder and a high priest guide over your right shoulder or something, and you're tuning into that essence, then you're more likely to receive, maybe you're going to not receive a little voice in your head, which everybody wants because it's so undeniable, but maybe you're going to receive an impulse, an intuitive hit, an idea, something, a feeling, something inside of you that is their way of communicating with you. And you can even go so far as to imagine your crown of your head opening up and creating that space for your guides, the three spheres of energy to come in and go right down into your heart, and then feel for their presence there inside of you, so that there's no separation, there's no disconnection from your guides. It's not possible, but if you give yourself the visceral experience of that, then it becomes more real to the average person, and they can start to believe, okay, there is something happening, and even though it's happening inside of me, it's still them and their desire to speak to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I'm going to have in the show notes is I'm going to have a link to your upcoming channel course, which I know you're offering right now. Can you touch a little bit on that course and how that works?
Yeah, we meet by Zoom 2 hours a month. So we do one class a month, so everybody has time to practice what they learn in that class before the next one, because we're always going to be going up to different, more specific beings. And like, I think it's easier to channel your spirit guides and your higher self than it is to channel ET. So we work our way up from spirit guides, higher self, archangels, ascended masters, fairies, ETs. But I also do classes on toning, because toning can really open up your throat chakra. Light language, which is a way that a lot of people begin the channeling experience, is through channeling light language. And then the first class is just like an intro to channeling. But in every class, the second hour is reserved for the exercises I take people through, so that they can open up and channel themselves right there in the class with themselves muted, and a lot of people turn their camera off, so it's all private what you're doing in your own home while you're a part of the course. But then it's all recorded, so anybody who can't make it to that live class will get the recording and be able to watch the video of it after. So I've done it. This is my 13th time doing it. I love doing it. I love watching people emerge as channelers, and it's just my favorite thing to talk about. So,
well, and I think what most people don't realize is as they're watching, depending on where someone is at in their personal awakening path, whatever, they'll watch someone like yourself, or many others, Angie Hipple, whoever it happens to be, channeling. They'll think, wow, that is really, really something. And what they don't realize is all of us have the ability. All of us have the ability to channel. And you are one of the individuals that create that opportunity to be able to really show people how to tap into it, how to, I went through, not all that long ago, several months ago, I went through Sarah Landon's channeling course, right, with Sarah. And it's amazing. I mean, it's just like a whole other world when you open that up. But I haven't taken it to anywhere near the level that a lot of like folks like you have taken it. Mine is just kind of more personal conversation with my angelic guides, and they do speak to me. They do. I can hear them speaking. I can feel their energy, but I've not taken it to the point, Daniel, where you talk about where being able to connect with other beings, being able to call others in, whether it's Archangel Michael, whether it's extraterrestrials, that type of thing. So I think for me, it's just cool to be able to know that you have the ability to tap into that source that is there. It's there with you, but to actually have that feeling, that energy feeling within your body, and have them speak to you and answer questions, is pretty amazing. It's an amazing feeling. So I think, I encourage as many people as I can to say, you can do it. You can really do this. So, I mean, get a resource. And this is a great resource. I think you're a fantastic resource. So I encourage folks to really look into that, and check that out. And like I said, it'll be in my show notes here for people to tap into. So one of the other things that I know you have going on, and I just ordered my copy. Thank you. Channeling Archangel Michael, 7 Signs of Humanity's Ascension. There it is right there. Hello. I'm so excited.
Really
I'm so excited. Yeah, I love the cover.
My client, who's an artist, came up with that, and I came up with the idea. She put it together, and it's really funny, this world that we live in today of so many things to choose from for people. And so I'm a student of like what works, and I realized that people seemed to really like my books about Ascension. So I have other books that are just called Channeled Wisdom from Higher Dimensional Beings, and they don't sell nearly as well as the ones that are about Ascension. And then also Signs, the channeling I did with Archangel Michael on Signs for YouTube was one of the most watched ones of his or theirs, And so when the whole thing came to me to put this out as a book, I knew like that would be a good title for it to grab people's attention. But I had no idea how well it would do. It's like selling way better than any book I've put out.
Didn't I see or hear that it just recently, within the past day or two, hit the #1 on the
#1 for maybe a few minutes. I don't know how long it stayed there, but I remember.
Did you get a screenshot of it though?
I did.
Okay, good.
And I texted it to my wife right away.
That's awesome.
And then it slipped back down to 4. It's been 2. It's been at #2 a lot. It's I'm now starting to really promote it. So let's see what happens.
Absolutely. I encourage everybody to get their hands on it, because I know it's It's got what's the number? Like a couple of hundred channeled
Over
messages.
200
Over
channel.
200. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm excited about reading it myself, because it'll be cool. Even though I've seen a number of your videos where you're channeling Archangel Michael, but being able to see it in print and refer back to it and go back to, hey, I remember, it's somewhat easier than trying to like go through the video catalog and go, okay, where was that again?
Right.
Where did he say that? No, that's so cool. I love it in that particular format. So so I think one last question, and we'll kind of start to wrap this up. But your work, Daniel, has touched so many lives. What's the one message or maybe insight you hope listeners are going to take away from our conversation today?
Well, I always want people to understand how powerful they are, because I think it's really easy in today's world, especially when you're talking about following people who are spiritual teachers, who are channelers, doing whatever they're doing out there in the new age world, for people to just give their power away and say, oh, so-and-so is saying this is going to happen, or so-and-so is saying that we're doomed to have all these natural disasters, and this is what really is going on in Gaza or Ukraine or something, and people are not necessarily feeling empowered as much by the spiritual teachers that have emerged in the past since I started doing this. So many different people are out there with their hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube, and I just want people to know that it's really up to all of us. And it's like Gandhi said, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. And there isn't just one future. We're not all hurtling towards this one future that's inevitable, other than there are certain things that are happening, like we are ascending, we are going to expand our consciousness to include extraterrestrial life forms living amongst us. Those kinds of things will happen just because that's the nature of reality. But everything else, everything having to do with the earth and the politics and the ecology, the not just the economic system, but like the environment, everything it's up to us to focus our way into those realities we want to experience. And we absolutely can expect that what we focus on will be getting bigger and being reflected to us. And that kind of empowerment is what I always want people to walk away from, not this idea of, well, what's my karma? What was my pre-birth contract with that person? What are the things I'm destined or doomed to experience in this life, which puts people in this place of feeling very small and like they don't have any control over their lives. But we really do. And the more we exert that control, the more we see the evidence of it.
That's great. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. And just again to remind everybody, down in my show notes down below, I'll have all of Daniel's links, all the different ways that you can interact with Daniel. And there's a lot of ways. He's got a lot of great content on his site. He's got a lot of great resources. He's got books, videos, courses, and I really encourage you to check out the channeling course. But you've got a couple of other things I know coming up as well, right? That you're doing. I know you've got you've got so much that you're doing, and I really appreciate that. I know that you've got there's an event that you're doing in Sedona, right, in January?
I'll be channeling with one of my heroes, Daryl Anka, at that event, which is so great to be able to share a stage with someone like Daryl Anka and his level. And Wendy Kennedy will be there too, Gothier, Lisa Royal Holt, all these channelers I really admire and look up to, and Rob is the organizer. He keeps adding more people to the event because there's more than one space where things are going on, and it's in Sedona, the 3rd through the 5th, and it's called the Channel Panel. So if you just Google the Channel Panel and then Sedona, it will come up as a top.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome. Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your incredible insights and your energy with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on Wake Up Laguna, and I hope to speak to you again really soon.
That'd be great, Rick. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
Thanks, Daniel. Bye
Okay.
now.